On an ordinary morning in September 2007, 14-year-old Andrew Gosden quietly stepped out of his home in Doncaster and was never seen again. What makes his disappearance so unsettling is how completely unexpected it was. There were no warning signs, no signs of distress, and no clear reason for him to abandon his normal life. Andrew was known as a shy but highly intelligent student. Teachers at Macaulay Catholic High School described him as exceptionally gifted, particularly in mathematics and science. The year before he vanished, he had even attended a summer program for talented students at Doncaster University. At home, Andrew lived a quiet and stable life with his parents, Kevin and Glenys Gosden, and his older sister. He enjoyed reading, playing video games, and listening to rock and metal music, especially bands like Muse and Slipknot. His family described him as calm, content, and not the type to run away. The day he disappeared, Friday, the 14th of September 2007, began like any other. Andrew got ready for school after his parents had already left for work, and his sister had gone ahead. He was expected to follow shortly after, but instead of heading to school, Andrew returned home. CCTV footage later showed him walking back into the house, a small and seemingly ordinary decision that would become the beginning of a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Once inside, Andrew changed out of his school uniform and into casual clothes, including a black t-shirt and jeans. He packed a small shoulder bag before leaving again. Inside the bag, he took only a few personal items. These included his wallet, his keys, and the charger for his PlayStation Portable. Strangely, he left the actual PSP device behind in his room. Investigators later found this detail unusual because Andrew loved gaming and rarely went anywhere without it. That morning, Andrew went to a nearby ATM and withdrew £200 from his bank account. This was nearly all the money he had saved. He then walked toward the local train station. At around 9:30 a.m., Andrew arrived at Doncaster railway station and approached the ticket counter. He asked for a one-way ticket to London. The employee at the ticket counter later told police that they offered Andrew a return ticket instead. The return option was only slightly more expensive than the one-way fare. Most people would have accepted it, but Andrew refused. He insisted on buying only a single ticket. This small moment later became one of the most puzzling details in the entire case. Investigators wondered whether Andrew intended to stay in London longer than a day, or if he never planned to return at all. Andrew boarded the train that morning, and the journey to London took about 2 hours. CCTV cameras confirmed that he arrived at King's Cross railway station at approximately 11:20 a.m. The footage shows Andrew walking out of the station calmly. He appeared relaxed and not in a hurry. He was wearing a black Slipknot t-shirt and carrying his small shoulder bag. This video became the last confirmed sighting of Andrew Gosden.
One of 80,000 children that go missing in the UK every year. Now, the majority are found within hours, but sadly, 14-year-old Andrew wasn't. So why did he disappear that day? What was his motivation? I'm on my way to Andrew's parents' home, where he grew up. So tell me what happened the day that Andrew went missing. Was it just a normal day?
He went out the door in his school uniform as though he was going to get the bus like every other day. And that's the last we saw of him.
But rather than attending school, Andrew went to Westfield Park near his home. He waited there until the house was empty before returning. Just after 9 a.m, Andrew was caught on CCTV in a change of clothes and walking down his street in the direction of the station. He went to a cash machine and emptied his savings account, withdrawing £200. Proceeded to Doncaster station, where he bought a one-way ticket to London.
After he stepped out of King's Cross station, Andrew disappeared into the massive city. London is one of the most heavily monitored cities in the world, filled with surveillance cameras on streets, buses, and shops. Yet despite this, Andrew was never clearly seen again. Police launched an extensive investigation after Andrew's parents reported him missing later that evening. At first, his family believed he had simply failed to return from school. It wasn't until they contacted the school that they discovered he had not attended classes that day. By the time investigators began reviewing CCTV footage, many hours had already passed. When police discovered that Andrew had traveled to London, the case quickly grew more complicated. Investigators searched through large amounts of surveillance footage from areas around King's Cross Station and nearby streets. They hoped to track Andrew's movements through the city. Unfortunately, they found no clear evidence showing where he went next. Some theories suggested Andrew may have planned to attend an event in London that day. Several music concerts were happening in the city around that time. One band Andrew liked, 30 Seconds to Mars, had a concert scheduled in London that weekend. However, there was no proof that Andrew attended the concert or went near the venue. Another possibility was that Andrew planned to visit museums or attractions. He was known to enjoy science and learning, so investigators considered that he might have gone to places like the Science Museum or the Natural History Museum. But again, there was no confirmed sighting of him in these locations.
Okay, so this is Andrew's ear when he went missing. Is there a medical definition for that?
The simple answer is no. There isn't a medical term or a medical diagnosis I could apply to this. I would say that this particular pattern is going to be specific to this individual, and in that sense it's very much like a fingerprint.
So obviously it was 11 years since he went missing. Would that have changed?
No. The deformity he has there will be precisely the same now.
So if somebody in their 20s came to see you with an ear like this, how likely is it that it would be Andrew?
Very likely.
5 days after Andrew went missing, there were reports that someone matching his description was seen walking up Sheen Lane in the direction of Upper Richmond Road. And by an odd coincidence, this is also my next stop in the investigation, as it's the home of charity Missing People. Amy Walker has worked at Missing People charity for 7 years, and she's responsible for the publicity of missing cases.
Over time, investigators explored many different theories. One theory suggested Andrew had been communicating secretly with someone who persuaded him to travel to London. This person might have promised to meet him there. However, this theory raised questions. Andrew did not own a mobile phone at the time. In fact, he had previously lost one and did not seem interested in replacing it. His family also said he did not spend much time online at home. Still, investigators considered that he might have used computers at school or public libraries to communicate with someone privately. Another theory suggested Andrew may have simply wanted a day alone in London. Some people believe he could have planned a secret trip to explore the city for a few hours before returning home. If that was his intention, something may have gone wrong during the trip. London can be overwhelming, especially for a teenager traveling alone. Andrew might have gotten lost, had an accident, or encountered someone dangerous.
I mean, that's the most baffling thing perhaps about Andrew's case, is that every eventuality has been kind of explored and there's still no reason as to why he would have left home that day. Putting his case aside, generally speaking, your experience of children going missing, what are some of the reasons?
Sometimes home isn't always the safest place. And that could be that there's something happening literally at home, maybe within the family unit. There's lots of different things that could lead someone to run away or go missing.
So if a missing person rings you, do you try and persuade them to call their family?
One of the things we can offer, and we do, is something called a message home. And literally, it's kind of the team are kind of a human answering machine, and we just take the message from that missing person and offer to forward it back to their loved ones. In some cases, it might be, I'm not coming home, but I am okay. But we would never force someone to make that decision.
Sadly, cases involving missing teenagers sometimes involve people who take advantage of vulnerable individuals. In 2021, the investigation saw a surprising development. Police arrested 2 men in London as part of the ongoing investigation into Andrew's disappearance. The suspects were arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking. This news gave Andrew's family hope that new evidence might finally reveal what happened. However, after questioning and investigation, the suspects were later released while inquiries continued. Police did not confirm whether the arrests were directly connected to Andrew's disappearance, leaving the case still unresolved. Throughout all these years, Andrew's parents have continued searching for answers. His father, Kevin Gosden, has spoken publicly about the pain of not knowing what happened to his son. For families of missing persons, the uncertainty can be even more painful than knowing the truth. Every day brings questions without answers. Organizations such as Missing People have helped keep Andrew's case in the public eye. Posters, awareness campaigns, and media coverage have all been used in the hope that someone might remember seeing Andrew in London that day.
So basically, when we got as far as getting some dinner together, we called. Couldn't get an answer. Thought, oh, he can't hear us, he's got earphones in or something. So, you know, then obviously we looked in the usual rooms, couldn't find him. We eventually were able to establish that he'd never been to school. That was the point at which alarm bells really rang.
Tell me about the ear.
It's about as significant as a birthmark, but he's got just an unusual shape on his right ear.
I mean, you must have thought about this so many times over the years, but can you think of any reason at all why he would have gone?
Honestly, we had absolutely no idea. Nothing whatsoever seemed to precede it. And no matter how many times we've been over it in our heads. I mean, if it's something that Andrew decided to do, it was clearly going on in his head only.
I mean, obviously you as a family have all talked endlessly about...
Well, it's obviously had a profound impact, as I'm sure all the families in our position would say. And it's probably easiest to try and explain it is that your life seems to be split. And it's like it's on two layers, that at one level you're functioning and continuing with day-to-day activities, but on another level part of you is stuck and just can't move on, and it's almost like having two separate parts of you, almost a bit like oil and water, and you're sort of keeping them separate somehow. But the sadness is always there and somehow permeates even into your everyday.
I mean, the very first moment, I think you just realise, well, they're not in the house, and you don't panic at that point. You start trying the logical alternatives, you know, is he to friends or whatever.
More than a decade later, the disappearance of Andrew Gosden still stands as one of the United Kingdom's most puzzling mysteries. What makes the case so unsettling is how completely ordinary everything appeared. There were no arguments, no warning signs, and no explanation. A quiet, intelligent teenager simply left home, boarded a train, and disappeared without a trace. If Andrew is still alive today, he would now be in his 30s. His family continues to hope that answers will eventually surface through new evidence, a witness coming forward, or someone finally speaking out. Until then, the case remains open, a lingering mystery surrounding a young boy who stepped into a busy city and was never seen again.